So when getting started on our Kahinde Wiley portrait, you first need to make sure you do your brainstorm sheet. And the brainstorm sheet is going to be super important because it helps sort of simplify the process in terms of thinking about who you want to use for your portrait, as well as then what sort of images can you use in relation to them for the background. So again, the two main things to consider is first of all, the subject. You want to think about someone that you respect or look up to. It can be a mentor of yours, a family member. It can even be yourself, even if you wanted to sort of celebrate yourself in this moment. Because remember, even as the Ed Puzzle explains, Wiley, by choosing the subjects he does, he seeks to sort of bring validation and power to people who typically would not have that. So thinking about subject and then thinking about background. So right off the bat, I know for mine, I want to do Malala. So Malala Yousafzai is a Pakistani humanitarian. She was actually shot by the Taliban, I believe, in 2013 while living in Pakistan, and has sort of spent her whole youth into current times, sort of advocating for education for women in her native country. I look up to her. I think she's a really amazing figure. So I chose an image of her and first removed the background. So I'm starting off with a pretty clean slate here. I have a good image of her. I really like the colors in here as well because it just really grabs your eye and attention. So something to consider is in the background, I ask you to think about some things that can be related to your person. Typically, Kahinde Wiley, his backgrounds are very colorful, bright, elaborate. He tends to use a lot of florals, actually. There's something very interesting and dynamic that of course, none of these are loading properly. There's something just very fascinating about having this sort of masculine figure surrounded by these ornate flowers. Most of his backgrounds typically are inspired by either West African designs, flowers from countries in Africa as well, kind of symbolizing the home of a lot of his portrait models, even if they themselves aren't really sure of specifically where they come from, because as African Americans, they lost that. So it just sort of helps sort of connect them with their identity. So in thinking about that, some things I knew about Malala is that she's from Pakistan. She currently does live in the UK, and she lives there. She graduated college. So those are the two main places that I know about for her. So what I did was the first background image, I simply created a layer of this. And this green is actually the color, one of the colors of the Pakistani flag. So the Pakistani flag is white and green. So I chose this green to sort of match as the base background. So already I have this right here. However, it's very simple in comparison again to the elaborate and gorgeous paintings that Wiley does. So what I did next was I was thinking just about the national flower of Pakistan. The national flower of Pakistan is the jasmine flower, not Disney. There we go. So what I did was I really searched for a couple, maybe like two or three images of the flower that I thought I could use in different ways in the background. Now, of course, it sometimes is hard to find a clear image here on the school Wi-Fi, but if you keep searching, you're going to find a whole lot of different options. So in Photoshop, I came up with this first image right here, and I have already gotten rid of the backgrounds of all of these, as well as this flower right here. So again, I started off with this, and I used my magic wand tool and my quick selection tool just to select the background and delete it so I have these clean images to work with. So if I start off with this flower right here, So I liked where it was before. I actually placed it sort of in this corner to fill right in there. And it starts to sort of overlap over her head just a little bit. And overlap is totally good. Overlapping is actually encouraged. Wiley, in his paintings, what he often does will overlap that background pattern. That's the good one. Will overlap the background pattern over parts of the model. Not the whole thing, but what it does is it helps create more depth and dimension to the actual painting, making it look more interesting versus them just against that background. So a little bit of overlap is totally good. So then I have that, and then I'm going to move this one kind of like over here for now. And again, you want to kind of mess around with the layering. Maybe I like it better like that, or maybe you want to transform it, and I kind of like something like that. And so then I can then just duplicate this and then sort of spread it out all throughout the background. So with these two key images of flowers, again, I'm just sort of messing around with the placement of them. Okay, so I'm gonna come back right after I am all done with the current setup. Okay, welcome back. So this is now my final image that I have made. I have duplicated the layers many times. And also don't be afraid to, if you want, you can mess around with layering images on top of one another, and then you can also use your layer mask option to help sort of clean up certain parts that you either do or do not want to be shown. Something else I was considering also was because again, Malala is originally from Pakistan, but is currently living in the UK and has for the past almost 10 years at this point. So, as a way to kind of indicate sort of her life in the UK, I also did want to include possibly an English rose, which is the official flower of England. So, I have this flower right here. It's nice and big. I'm gonna just very quickly resize it like that. Again, you can use your quick selection or magic wand tool. In this case, I'm using my quick selection because it's quick. Trying to get in there as much as I can. And I'm okay if I lose some of this right now, actually. So I'm going to delete it, deselect, and then simply just sort of rotate it. Make it nice and big. So it then kind of covers that, and there's sort of this balance going on between the English rose and the jasmine flower from Pakistan. Just resize it one more time. Make sure it's placed nice. Like that. And then I can go in and just sort of clean all this up. I can use my eraser tool for this part. I know I don't want that border right there. However, I know for sure that for the edges here, I'm going to use my, I'm going to use my layer mask just because honestly, I do not trust the eraser mask. And this way, if I make a mistake, I can always undo it. So then my layer mask, just going to go in and sort of clean all that up. And again, the benefit of the layer mask over the eraser tool is that if I make a mistake, like that, I can always just go back to white and bring it back. So again, there definitely could be fixed up a little bit, but overall, that is my final portrait.